Hi, welcome to the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. Today I have a very special guest, Rob Guttrow, and he has written a book that I just almost completed before this podcast interview started. It's called Kindred Spirits: When a Medium Befriends a Spirit. Welcome to the show, welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Rob, I found, and he has a very interesting story that I want to talk about with his husband's ex-partner. So we'll talk about that. But Rob is also a medium for pets. So Rob, can you give us a little background about what your abilities are and kind of how this started? And I think it started at a younger age for you, right? When you discovered this?
It did. I was 13 years old, Zach, when my grandfather, who had passed away 7 months before, decided to appear visibly in front of me and scare the life out of me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
um, so I had explained that to my parents when they came home, and my mother, as it turns out, had the ability, and her father, the one that appeared to me, also had the ability. So it runs on her side of the family.
Okay. And did
So
you know that growing up?
no, heck no.
Yeah.
Not until he appeared to me and scared me. So
No, but did you know your mother had that ability when you were, no. Okay.
I did not. No. So my mother is Italian. She's from Boston, and
Okay.
she sometimes you keep secrets in the
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. Got it.
So that's how that happened, and I just kind of buried that ability for a long time, and then I had a puppy that passed away in 2005. He was
Okay.
tragically killed by a car.
Oh,
And he reawakened my abilities. He blew the doors off of them, and he showed me all the way that pets communicate from the other side.
wow.
So and yeah, so I used to write everything down in a diary, and that became the basis of my first book. Um, so
And your which one was your first book? Because you have a series of books. So you have three series of books. You have Pets in the Afterlife, on a medium vacation series,
mhm,
and then Ghost versus Spirits. Is that correct?
that's correct. Yes. So it was the first one was Ghosts and Spirits Explained,
Okay.
and that one includes pets, but it also includes how spirits, the difference between a ghost and a spirit.
Yep.
Um, includes a chapter about how my dad helped me prove to my mother and my brothers he was at his own funeral,
Wow.
and yeah, that was kind of crazy. And it has other chapters about other uh, spirits that have crossed over that I've encountered, and earthbound ghosts in haunted places.
So tell the audience what the difference is between a spirit and a ghost.
Sure. So when we die, the energy within us, there's energy within us. If you think of how our thoughts are measured as little
Hmm.
electrical impulses and so forth, that couples with memories, personality, and knowledge. And then we make a choice as an entity of energy to either cross over into the light, the other side, and
Okay.
that's what I call a spirit. Or we decide to stay earthbound and at a place either we know or where we died. And that's what I call a ghost.
Okay. And do you choose where you want to be, either a ghost or a spirit?
Yes, you do. And I find that most people who are very devout to a religion
Yeah.
have more of a fear of crossing over. And
Okay.
those are the ones that tend to stay behind because they're afraid of judgment.
I see. Okay. And so let's back up and talk about this book that I just read about how you came into contact with your husband's ex-partner.
Yes.
And how did that first develop? Like, how did that happen? Tell me that. Walk me through that story.
Okay. Well, I met my husband Tom in 2005 in
Okay.
December. And uh, Ed, who was his partner who passed away in 1996, um, came along with him. And
Wow.
so in 2005 is when I lost my puppy. So my abilities reawakened. So I was able to sense Ed. The very first time that I sensed Ed was when Tom and I were coming back from visiting his grandmother. And I sensed that somebody was in the back seat. Now there was nobody in the back seat. And I looked in the rearview mirror and there was Ed's face.
Wow.
I was so startled that I had to pull into a parking lot of a
Yeah.
fast food place, and I just said to Tom, who was a boyfriend at the time, I said, I think your late partner is in the back seat. So that was
And
the
was his
beginning.
reaction like you're insane or you're crazy, or did he what did he say?
Well, I kind of let him know that I had this ability.
Okay.
Um, so he understood, and then he just said, "I'm not surprised."
Interesting.
So, and as it turns out, Zach, Ed and I almost share a birthday. We're like 2 days apart.
Wow.
And uh, Ed has a quirky, funny sense of humor that he's let me know over time. Um,
Okay.
for instance, one of the things that were in the book was when he had me call Tom an MOT. Do you remember that in the book?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We were coming out of Barnes and Noble, and Tom said something, sarcastic, as he does, because Tom has a
Yep.
sarcastic sense of humor. And I said, "You MOT," and he said, "What? What does that mean?" And I said, "Mean old thing." And
Yeah.
he said, "You've never called me that. Where did you get that?" And I said, "Ed told me to call you that." And he said, "Ed used to call me an MOT all the time."
Wow. So, what was your husband's reaction to this, though? I mean, what did it kind of? I mean, I believe in mediumship. I believe in that. I believe in all of this, and but I think it would kind of freak me out a little bit if I knew my husband's ex partner was kind of with us at these times and stuff. And I guess you can ask him to not be there at some point, right? You can ask him to not be around if you want to. You can can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So spirits who have crossed over, um, still behave like they do in life. So they're people or
Yeah.
pets, and you can tell them um, to give you some privacy.
Yep.
I'm like, don't come, don't come in the bathroom with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need to. Um, yeah, they will listen and they would behave.
And do you feel like you got the kind of seal of approval from Ed for your relationship?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a matter of fact, it happened actually through two tarot readers. So
Okay.
at one point, and this is kind of an interesting story because it reflects Tom's personality too. Tom is pretty open. He's pretty open minded about stuff like
Yeah.
this. So um, at one point, I think it was in August. I can't remember the exact month, but we were in old Ellicott City, Maryland, and
Okay.
there was a tarot reader there. And I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be fun to finally go to one of these and see what they say?" So
Yeah.
he said, "Okay." So we did that, and there were two women who were incredibly talented, um, and they each took one of us into a different rooms,
Okay.
and we both came out later and we compared notes, and they both talked about Ed. They said a
Wow.
younger man who died in his 30s is near you. And I told Tom afterward, I said, mine said the same thing. And we were on the other sides of the building, so
Yeah.
there was no way they could have known.
Yeah.
And they said that he has brought you together,
Wow.
and because you were good for each other. And and one of the funny things that they also said, this is an aside, they said you two will move in with each other
Mhm.
by Thanksgiving. And Tom was very, I don't know,
Hesitant to it?
conservative. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was hesitant
Yeah.
because we had been seeing each other for 4 years, and he said, "No, I'm never going to do that. Never going to do that." And one night in early November, he was coming up. He was driving up the I-95, and the traffic was really bad. It took him like 2 hours instead of 25
Oh,
minutes.
wow.
And he got in and he said, "We are never doing this again." And I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "We are consolidating." And I said, "You mean moving in together?"
Yeah.
And that's what he meant. And it was before Thanksgiving.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
like, and and what's some of the messaging that kind of Ed has given you over the years that maybe helped your relationship a bit?
Oh gosh. Well, so being a medium is an inside step up because Ed has told me things about their relationship,
Oh, okay.
and then and things that I did not put in the book.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and I would tell Tom, and he would say, that's true. That's
Okay.
how I behaved. That's how Ed behaved." Um, and um, and sometimes he would say, "I don't like you talking to Ed all the time."
Yeah, that's how I was going to ask that. Does he is he ever like no more Ed for this week or for this month because it's too much?
um, well, it only comes to me when he has something to tell me. So
Okay.
it isn't like every day.
Yeah.
But he says, "Why would Ed talk to you about that?" I said, "I don't know. I'm just sitting here, and maybe there was something that happened in our lives that was relevant."
Yeah.
Um, so somebody that I talked to before just defined our relationship as a spirit triangle.
Yeah. That's a good. I think that's a good description actually. And what did it ever scare you though? Whenever Ed or any spirit came in, did it ever frighten you at all?
Only my grandfather in the beginning,
Okay.
and then and so spirits who have crossed over are very. They usually only come around times that they're needed,
Okay.
or around birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays.
Yep.
And so Ed always shows up on his birthday.
Okay.
He often shows up on holidays,
Okay.
um, and around the time they pass. So um, so that goes for everybody. Birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays are the times to look for signs, and signs have there's a whole range of signs that people can look for.
Yeah.
Um, Ed uses coins. Those are the things that he
Mhm.
specializes in, and the reason he does that is something. It's I found out only because he told me about the word jingle.
Okay. Yep.
So in the chapter that I call Spirit Treasure Hunt,
Mhm.
Ed proved to me that he was around his family and us the week before he passed. I mean the week we were going to visit his dad, rather.
Okay.
The week we were going to visit his dad for the very first time. I had never met his family. Um, and for the week before, he gave me signs every single day, and I would write them down. One of them was jingle, and it was in the middle of July or August, and I thought, what in the world? Is
Yeah.
this Christmas?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it turns out that when we went to see his dad went into a room that has all of Ed's effects that he's kept over these years. And one of them was a can with the word jingle written on it. He used to call change for coffee jingle Java.
Yep.
And so he would always have coins. So Ed would send us coins wherever we went. And I have to tell you, Zach, that um, I have never seen so many coins dated 1996, the year he passed.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah. It's crazy because every time I ask him for a sign, he will give me a coin, and it's usually 1996.
Wow. Isn't that incredible? I mean, it just.
It is, given how long ago 1996 was.
Yeah. I mean, you would think those would start to be out of distribution at this point. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we're getting old.
Yeah. um, do you think you would have been friends with Ed if you were to have met each other in real life?
Yeah, good question. I absolutely do.
Okay.
I think that Ed and I have a lot in common in terms of our behaviors and our personalities, and Ed was somewhat like me.
Okay.
He was more friendly, more kind of a people person.
Okay.
Tom is shy and reserved, so like I'm the one that has to make the plans.
Yes.
Ed used to do the make the plans. Is it that way with you?
Yes. I mean, well, my relationship, we're both pretty outgoing, but if I don't make plans, it's not happening. And also vacation, I'm planning a vacation, 6 months or 9 months ahead of time. And my husband would be like, "Oh, let's just jump in the car and go, or let's get a last minute flight somewhere or something." So I think that we complement each other like that because he'll want to do certain fun things that I probably wouldn't have wanted to do, and then I do it. And I'm so glad we did that. So years ago, I never wanted to hike, and for the last decade or so, since he's took me hiking, now I love it. So it's we complement each other like that way.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I do find that we are a balance for each other, either in personalities or likes and dislikes. Tom has introduced me to a number of things that I never would have looked into. Like he loves the Tudor period of England, the
Mm-hmm.
1500s, and he planned an entire trip with a travel agent for that. And I didn't know anything about it, nothing. And he's a big Tudor fan. He read
Yep.
every Tudor book, and we went over there. That became the I hear your kitty.
Yeah. Of course, whenever I'm doing a podcast is whenever the kitty needs to get fed. So
Well, that's okay. I love pets, whether living or past.
yeah,
Talk to them all. um, but so that's how when we went to England and we went to all of these castles and different places, I met all these ghosts, and that became the basis of my book, Ghosts of England on a Medium's Vacation.
that's awesome. That's really cool. And so, what do you give readings to people? And I see that you're not doing that until 2025. But what's some of the more interesting readings that you have given to people, and has it changed their lives?
Yes, I'm humbled to say. So I only do readings for people who lost pets.
Pets, okay.
Yeah, and the reason is Zach is that I think people have too many hangups.
Yeah.
You know, um, truthfully, the last reading I did for a person that was very uncomfortable because the person who passed was abusive,
Oh,
and
okay.
I didn't. I just said, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
I just want love and pets.
Yeah. And
So
pets are going to give love always, right?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I get that. Um, and what's one amazing story that you can tell me about when somebody had when you give them a pet reading? Like, were they just thrilled and just happy to connect? And also a question I have is, can pets be ghosts too, or are they spirits only?
They can be ghosts, but it's very rare.
Okay.
And the reason is because, as you know, pets are very intuitive about energy
Hmm.
and emotion, and they
Hmm.
can read emotion. So when they pass and they see the light, they have the option to go in the light, like everybody does, or stay earthbound. And they sense the goodness and peace and love in the light on the other
Okay.
side.
Yeah.
And usually our loved ones in spirit, human or other pets, are waiting for them. So it encourages them to go.
Yeah. Um, what did you whenever someone dies, like what happens? What do you think that is happening to them? Like, can you give me a little details, or the listeners a detail about, I die tomorrow, and what happens at that point, and where do I go, and what's my choice?
Yeah, so that so the energy that we were talking about earlier couples with our memories and personality and the knowledge of this life we lived, and
Okay.
then when we make a choice, um, normally we would cross into the light because our loved ones are waiting, just
Hmm.
like for our pets. The people who are afraid of being uh, you know, going to a bad place
Hmm.
will stay earthbound. Or people who know they've done things wrong will stay behind. And really, they shouldn't. Everybody needs to cross over. And
Well, do they have the option to do it later on, or once they make that choice, that's it?
so that's a really great question. What I've learned is that because their energy, think of them as a battery. As
Hmm.
soon as we die, we're a battery, we're at full charge.
Yeah.
Over time, as we stay earthbound, that charge diminishes. And that diminishes below a point where we have enough energy to open the doorway to the other side.
I
And
see.
that's why they get stuck. So it takes a team of paranormal investigators, like 4 or 5, to pool their emotional energies to open a doorway and cross people over.
I see. And have you been a part of that before?
I have. I've done a lot of crossings over. And it's exhausting.
Uh,
It's not only it's emotionally exhausting, but it's physically draining.
one of the things I seen in your books or notes or your website is that anybody could have this ability to be a medium. Can you maybe talk about that a little bit and what you think?
Sure. So if you're the people who are mostly sensitive, emotionally sensitive,
Hmm.
um, those are the people that have more of an ability, more of a chance to sense what's around them.
Okay.
So, are you a very emotional person?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I will. be upfront with you, and I haven't told my audience this. I started taking a mediumship class about 4 months ago.
Cool.
And I was doing it for my podcast because I was just going to do it and just do it for a 3-month period and see how it went. I was just going to do an episode on it.
Mhm.
And then I'm kind of letting this out. I didn't think I was going to talk about this today. And I believed in it, but I didn't really believe that I could do it.
Mhm.
And now I have witnessed that I can do it. And I think it's amazing. And I do it every Tuesday evening with a group of 4 people and the medium, and it's quite interesting. So, but I don't want to talk too much about that because
Sure.
maybe one day I'll talk about it on an episode, and maybe one day I won't. I just felt like it's something that I again just wanted to do some research on, and then I became a believer.
I love it. So, so you're a great example of that. One thing I always tell people is that you really have to trust your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I love to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi and say, trust your feelings,
Yeah.
Luke. You know, you can tap into the force, and the force is really energy, the spirits,
Yeah.
their energy. So for people who are listening that don't think they have that ability, think of how when you go into a crowded room, there are always people that you're drawn to. Like you want to say hi or you just
Yeah.
give them a look or a
Mhm.
smile or something. And conversely, you see people and you turn away from them. You're reading their energy. You're reading their emotional energy. And
Yeah.
that's what mediums do.
Yeah.
Mediums just read emotional energy from people or pets who passed. And we have to trust our feelings. It's like interviewing for a position, right?
Mhm.
And have you ever gone in an interview where you felt, I'm really uncomfortable talking to this person?
Yes. Yes. Of course.
Yeah. And so you're reading their energy and you have to trust that.
Yeah, I agree. I think gut feelings are, and just reading somebody's energy is so right on. So I understand exactly what you're saying. Um, whenever whenever you meet people, do you ever have something that kind of comes to you about, so let's say you met someone at a party or at a dinner or something, and do you ever feel like their energy, like you have somebody that is maybe coming in spirit for that person or something? Does that ever happen to you?
Oh, like their time is limited on
Well,
Earth,
not
you
their
mean?
time, but like let's say that you met somebody at a dinner, and then their grandfather appeared or something. Does that ever happen to you where you are like, oh, and I don't want to use this generic Teresa Caputo from the Long Island Medium because I think a lot of people use that, but she walks up to people and says, "Oh, there's somebody here for you." And what I'm learning in my mediumship class is that you don't just walk up to somebody and say, "There's somebody here for you."
No, absolutely not.
They need to consent for it. And also, so I'm sure that she probably gets consent and it's all a TV show, but
Yeah.
but does that happen where somebody pops up when you're talking with somebody and you don't know them and their grandfather or somebody shows up?
Once in a while.
Okay.
It did happen on a cruise. My husband and I went on a cruise in the Caribbean, and we were sitting having lunch, and suddenly there was a man at our table, and he said his name is John, and he is connected to the woman who's sitting 3 tables behind us, and he wanted to tell her that he is here, he is there for her, and he's been her guardian,
Okay.
and he showed me Ivy on a wall, and he and he said, "This is the kind of school I went to," which was an Ivy League school,
Okay.
and there were a couple of other things that he mentioned that I can remember off the top of my head. So I was telling my husband Tom, I said, "This guy is right here, and he's telling me all these things, and he's for that woman sitting 3 tables behind us." And my husband faced the woman, and I said, "Well, what is she by herself?" And he said,
Uh-huh.
"Yes, she's by herself." And I said, "Do you think I should talk to her?" And he said, "I don't know." So um, John kept nudging me and say, "Please let her know."
Yes.
And I said, "Okay, all right. I don't do this normally," but I went over and I talked to her. I said, "Excuse me, do you have someone named John who passed and went to an Ivy League school and maybe a lawyer or something?" And she was like, "That's my uncle." And
Wow.
she totally understood the message. And I was relieved because I was
Yeah.
afraid to tell her. And later on, 2 days later, she bumped into me in the ship and she thanked me for the reading. And she said, "I know why my uncle came to you and your husband. My uncle was gay." so he could
Oh,
trust you.
interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
There was a trust there. That's great.
Yeah.
What do you think that people are reincarnated once they are there? Like, do people come back? Like, what's your thought on that?
I do think that we all come back, but we wait until everybody we know in this life has passed,
Okay.
and then we come back. And same thing with pets. Um, our pets do not reincarnate into another pet
Hmm.
during this lifetime. Instead, they wait for us on the other side. However, our pets also come back and visit, and they will train the new pet to have a habit that they had. So we
That
will
is
see
so
that.
interesting.
Yeah.
That is so true, actually, now that you say that, because our one cat we had for 21 years and our newer cat we've had for a few years has a lot of similarities and traits of our old cat. And sometimes we actually call our newer cat by our old cat's name because we just get confused because it's just they're so similar.
So that's exactly what happened. And the first time that happened to me, it was it was astounding. I was in I was in a session with a medium named Barb Allen, and she held medium sessions for like public sessions, kind of like
Yes.
the Teresa Caputo thing. And I was just sitting in the audience,
Yes.
and she's a friend of mine, and she let me sit, and I would just at intermission I would call out readings that I was getting from people in the audience, and one was from a little Chihuahua named Chico. He
Okay.
was a little beige Chihuahua, and I said, "Does anybody know a little beige Chihuahua?" Uh, I said, I didn't actually say that. I was talking to Chico, and I said to Chico, "Who is your person?" That's what it was. Normally I would call them out, but I
Yeah.
didn't. So as people were filing out, Chico said, "That's her." So I called to a woman with long brown hair, and I said, "Excuse me, do you know a little beige Chihuahua named Chico?" And she said, "That's my grandmother's dog that just passed away last week."
Wow.
And I, she said, "Why in the world would Chico be here for me?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, Chico was showing me that that there's a medium-sized black dog, and he's been trying to get the medium-sized black dog to behave better for you."
Yes.
And she said, "I have a black lab." And she said, "My black lab has been much more passive and agreeable over the last week since Chico passed."
That is so interesting.
So that's how I learned that our pets come back and teach other pets.
It makes so much sense. I mean, when it just that resonates with me so much that
Awesome.
I just never thought of that. Yeah, that's amazing.
See, this is a message. This is why we connected, so
Yeah,
that you would understand that
yeah.
particular part.
I think it's just I can't wait to tell my husband after this interview is over because he's going to be like, that makes so much sense. So, um, do you get people that? So I've told my mother that I'm taking this mediumship class, and
Mhm.
she's like, "Where's your father? Has he come?" And I'm like, "He hasn't come." And I actually, whenever I'm doing, so we do readings in this mediumship class that I have, and I always get the strangest people coming whenever I'm the sitter,
Mhm.
where it's like people I worked with when I was 17 years old at a restaurant. I mean, it's very bizarre people that come, but the people who I'm wanting to come haven't come yet. So again, I'm only a few months into it, but it's so interesting, the whole thing. So
So they'll only come when they have something to tell you.
yeah.
So and I always tell people too that that if you are grieving the passing of someone who recently passed,
Hmm.
like a pet
Yeah.
or a grandmother, that your grief is an energy that will block out messages.
Interesting.
So you will not be able to get those messages. And dreams are the easiest way for spirit to communicate.
Mm.
Ghosts cannot communicate through dreams. They can influence a dream to
Mm.
take a bad turn, but they can't come into a dream and show themselves. Only spirits can do that.
Is one of your books kind of talk through this that you could tell the audience that they should read?
Sure, Ghosts and Spirits Explained and
Mhm.
Lessons Learned from Talking to the Dead.
Great. And are those on Amazon?
They're all on Amazon, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I got your book got delivered, I think, in a next day or 2-day delivery whenever I ordered it offline. So it was a fast delivery.
Oh, wow.
So just to let
Well,
the audience know. But I'm going to go and purchase the other books. That's really interesting. Anything else you'd want to kind of tell the audience that they should maybe be aware of for their pets, and that maybe someone's grieving, and can you let them know if they'll see their pets again one day once they cross over?
Sure. We will actually see our pets on the other side, and that's why they don't reincarnate while we're alive. They want to be the guide to take us to the other side.
Yeah.
Um, so just be patient. If you can't dream of your pet, grief is blocking those messages.
Okay.
But I will tell you that a woman came to me and said she was very mad at her husband because when her dog died, and it was her soul dog,
Yep.
her dog has not been able to come to her in dreams, but her dog has come to her husband in dreams. So
Wow.
she said, every time my husband tells me he has a dream about my dog, I get mad and I yell at him. And I said, your dog doesn't want that. Your dog is coming to your husband because you are grieving,
Yeah.
and he will give you the message. So, your dog doesn't want to cause marital discourse.
Yeah.
Just bring you peace. um, it's all about paying attention.
Yeah.
So, one thing I learned, the bottom line for spirit is that there's no such thing as a coincidence.
Yeah.
Um, if you think that something just happens to be a coincidence, it's really not. So there's a spirit, either person or pet, that's
Mhm.
motivating that to happen. There are many ways that people can communicate, and pets can communicate. They can drop coins. They can influence birds and butterflies and other things in nature
Mm.
to behave erratically, like staring at you.
Yep.
I did a reading, and I told one woman that her cat will send a bird outside that will chirp really loudly, sing very, very
Yep.
loudly outside of her window. And she said, she wrote me back actually just last week, and she said, after my cat died, there was a bird that was singing very loudly outside of my window, just as you said. And she said, my birthday just passed. Another bird was singing very loudly outside my window
Wow.
on my birthday. So I knew it was my cat
Yeah.
because of the reading. Um,
And did it give her comfort?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was so happy that her cat had come for her birthday.
That must give you, I mean, that must be the great part of having this ability, right? Is that you can give people so much comfort. And because pets are like children. I mean, they're like my children, my pets are.
Yeah, they're my kids too.
And, just being able to kind of give people those signals or that information so they know that there's, they're there still I think is such a great gift that you're able to give people.
And I would say in 10 years, 15 years that I've been doing the readings, I've missed 4. And
Okay.
what happens is that a pet that I'm going to read will come in ahead. So I'll do a reading for somebody and send it to somebody, and it won't be anything like their pet.
Okay.
And that happened only 4 times in 15 years.
Okay.
And then the next time, and the next reading I do, I'm getting the same stuff. And I'm like, okay, now I know what's going on.
Do you ever not have any connection with some people just whenever you're doing a reading, like nothing's coming through for them?
It's sometimes it's harder to get information, and that is because everybody's personality comes into play.
Yeah.
So for instance, with people, if they were untrusting in life,
Yeah.
they're going to be untrusting in death, and they're going to be less approachable. That's happened with trying to cross earthbound ghosts over.
Okay.
Same thing with pets. If you have a dog or a cat on the other side who is reluctant to talk to a stranger,
Mm-hmm.
you have to win them over.
I see. Yeah.
That takes a while.
Yeah.
But one of the things about Ed is that when we connected immediately, and he opened up to me.
Wow.
And I think the thing that was most amazing to me about Ed is that he helped me solve the mystery of his own death.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Sure. So the week before we went to go see his dad for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'd never met Ed in life at all, so I knew nothing. And my husband is one of those husbands who don't like to talk about the past.
I see. Yeah.
So I knew nothing about Ed.
Okay.
The only thing I knew about Ed was that he worked in landscaping and he grew up in Virginia. That's all Tom would talk about.
Okay.
And I'm like, come on, can you tell me what did he like? What music did he like? He's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. Like,
Okay.
all right. So Ed talked about it. Ed told me all this stuff. Ed told me. So the week before we went to go see his dad, every single morning Ed would give me a message and I would write it down. I always while I was shaving. in the bathroom.
Okay.
I'm like,
Okay.
what? Like the jingle word I mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, he talked about a Duke and a Duchess. He talked about he showed me Heath Ledger, and I'm like, why? I,
Yeah.
uh, so that was actually a clue. He, gosh, there's so many things. It was just crazy. So when we went down to see his dad, oh, and the blue book was the kicker.
Okay.
Did you get to that part yet?
No, I haven't got to that part. The blue
Okay,
book.
well, I won't spoil it, but the blue book was amazing
Okay.
because his dad didn't know what it was.
Actually, I am right there. That's right where I'm at right now in the book.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
All right. Um, and so Ed made me go to a bookstore before
I did read this. I did read
we
this.
drove. Okay,
Yes.
before we drove down to meet his dad, and I was in there for like an hour and a half.
Yes.
While Tom sat in the parking lot with the dogs, and I came back with only one book.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What the heck? You know, you're in there for an
Yeah.
hour and a half, and you come out with one."
Yep.
The Borders book was closing, and he said, "I thought you were going to come out with a big stack." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Nope, just this one." And I don't know why, because I didn't go in there for this. So, so we went to see Ed's dad, and we went over these various signs,
Yeah.
and his dad had to think about some of them. But the thing that really flipped his dad out was when I told him, Ed said, it's something about a rowboat and a kayak. And his dad was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we got to so Ed's dad took us around the town that they grew up in, and we went to Ed's brother's house, and
Okay.
I'll never forget this. We pulled up. Ed's dad was driving, and he pulled up into the driveway, and he said, "Oh crap!" He said, "Look," and in the driveway was a trailer with a boat on it, but it actually looked like a kayak.
Yeah.
So. And he just said, let's go in. We're not going to say anything, because Ed's message to me was a rowboat and a kayak.
Okay.
So we went in, we met his brother. I had never met his brother before, of course, because I didn't know him, and his sister-in-law.
Okay.
And his brother was talking about the kayak. He said, yeah, I just bought this week or last week. And he said, I love going out on the water with this, and I'm really excited about it. And his dad is like, okay. And then when we left the house, we were only there like 10 minutes. He stopped us on the stairs, and Tom was up the top, I was in the middle, and Ed's dad was on the bottom, the walkway. And Ed's brother said, I love to take this boat out on the lake because sometimes I use it as a rowboat and I go fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And his father was like, a rowboat and a kayak. And he said, we have to go.
Yeah.
And he got in the car, and he's like, come on, we have to go. So Tom and I get in the car, we say goodbye, and he's like, did you hear that? He said he didn't even know his son had bought a boat.
Wow.
But he said the words that Ed said, a rowboat and a kayak.
Wow.
So that was crazy. But for people who want to read the book, I won't give this away, but Heath Ledger was the key to determining that Ed, the key to Ed's death.
Okay.
So I'll leave it there.
Leave it there. Yeah, you don't want to ruin it. So
yeah, and everybody needs to find the blue book, because the blue book part is fascinating.
Yeah, that's the part I'm actually at this moment. So I've been at the part where you have left the bookstore and he was waiting for an hour and a half in the car for you, and you come back. So I'm there now. So I'll finish it up by this weekend. It's a really interesting read. I'm definitely going to get a couple of your other books that you talked about, especially the pets. I think that's so interesting. I do think we were meant to meet today, because you what you told me about the pets, kind of training your other pets. I think that's amazing. So anything else you'd want to tell the listeners just about being a medium or the afterworld?
Sure. So for anybody who has lost a loved one to illness or death by suicide or murder, know that they all have the ability to cross over.
Okay.
And especially in the LGBTQ community, so many people are pressured and
Mhm.
die by suicide. Please know that they've crossed over.
Okay, that's really nice to say. Yeah,
It,
I that's awesome.
it's a religious fallacy
Yeah,
that say that people go to a bad place. And number two, there is no bad place.
yeah,
That bad place was designed in prehistoric times
yeah,
to scare people
yeah,
to behave, and it doesn't exist. It's only love, light, and peace on the other side.
yeah,
So take comfort in that, and know that you have the ability to ask your loved ones to come to you in dreams and other ways. If you hear your loved one's name when you're out,
yeah,
just by chance, overhear it, that means that they're with you.
yeah.
If you see someone that looks like them,
Hmm.
know that they led you to that person or
Yeah,
that pet at that time. My books are filled with these examples. There are so many ways that spirits communicate, and that's why I wrote the book, Zach, is that I wrote these books to convey my experiences and how spirits communicate from the other side. And I hope they bring people peace. I will tell you that I'm almost done with Kindred Spirits too, because Ed
wow.
keeps talking to me.
Oh, that's interesting. I can't
Yeah,
wait for that one to come out.
yeah, and he's always proven to me that he has been there when our dogs pass.
Okay.
He's always given me a physical sign. So that's in the book too.
My last question is: do you look forward to meeting him one day on the other side?
Oh gosh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I can't wait to give him a big hug.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's awesome.
he
Well, thank
is
you so
good
much.
speaking.
This is so interesting. Everybody should go. Petspirits.com is the website where if you want to find out anything about Rob's different books. Also, Rob Gutro, it's GUTRO.com. Is that correct?
Yes,
And go there. There's tons of great information there. It talks about his 3 different series of books, and you can find out when the next Kindred Spirits book's coming out. And thank you so much. This was such an interesting conversation. I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people, and you're going to make a lot of people feel really good about this. So thank you so
thank you.
much.
You're very welcome. And I do have an events page, by the way, and I live in New England, and
Oh,
I'm doing a lot of fundraisers for animal rescues to teach people how their pets communicate in all the different New England states.
well, I will probably see you at one of those. I'm going to go check out that events page after this interview's over, and I'd love to meet you in person.
I would love that. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast and talk to you next week.